What's up guys? Today we got a great video for you. I've had the same question asked to me by several of the viewers. What tools should I buy starting out in diesel mechanics? So let's take a look and I'll give you my opinion on some of these tools and we'll look at them in depth. So you guys stick around. Alright guys, so like I mentioned in the intro, I've had several viewers ask the same question. So I thought I'd put together a little video and give you my opinion and my thoughts on this. The question is, what tools should I buy starting out in the diesel field? Well, asking somebody what their opinion is on tools is about the same as asking somebody's opinion on what kind of toothpaste or what kind of underwear to wear. The question all boils down to what do you have access to, what can you afford, what works for you. Everybody's going to have different opinions. But one thing I can say is if you're going to be in this field, you're going to use sockets, and let's start the whole discussion with what sockets. Now, this is definitely an opinion and people have their own opinions on everything in life, but this is my opinion on what you should buy. Chrome sockets look great, but chrome sockets don't perform well on impacts. We all know that. I advise everybody to buy impact sockets versus chrome. The reason is simple. Chrome sockets are expensive, especially if you buy them off a tool truck. Same thing with impact sockets. Why buy two tools to do the same job? It's very rare that you'll ever run into a situation where you'll need chrome over an impact. With that being said, you can use an impact socket on a ratchet, you can use it on an impact, you can use it on an air ratchet or electric ratchet, same way with impacts. The chrome is just for a ratchet. Granted, you can use them on an impact, but it's going to shorten their life and more than likely they're going to crack. If they got a warranty, who cares? It's not really the deal with a warranty, it's the cutting hazard that you could have when it does split, cutting your hand, damaging or running off fasteners. Anyway, long story, go with impact sockets and save your money. If you run into the situation where you need a chrome socket because the impact socket is too thick, you can always borrow one from somebody in the shop or look at getting a less expensive set. One of the sets that I do recommend to everybody, and me and Bill both got them, is the Duo socket set by Grey Pneumatic. What makes this socket set superior to other sockets, in my opinion, and this is the 3/8 master set, and it comes with deep as well as shallow in it. It also has a ratchet and 2 extensions. What makes these great is they're designed to work on an impact as well as being a thin wall like a chrome socket. This is an amazing set of sockets. Bill's had a set for a very long time, at least 10 years, and he has not broken one yet. So I'm a believer in the Duo socket set. This is the set that I keep in my personal truck and a toolbox because I also have ratchets and impacts in that vehicle. You can't go wrong with the Duo socket set. There you go. That solves the chrome and impact debate. They've done them. They have an excellent warranty. They're not an expensive set and they're high quality. So the next part we're going to talk about is with sockets, you're going to have situations where you can't get them in there. I personally like the pinless universal adapters. These are made by Gear Wrench. They're X cores and they work great for adapting a regular socket to become a universal socket at that point. Now this one has had an extreme amount of use put on it and it's still held up. It's well worth the money and they work great. Now some guys are going to argue the fact that these are a pain in the butt. I've used them for a long time before I ever bought universal impact sockets and they've held up great. Now granted, they will come apart. When I say come apart, like in tight places, your socket will come off of them at certain times. So you have to watch to make sure of that. But that's a small price to pay for a set of these that will work with all your regular sockets instead of buying a full set of metric universal impact sockets. Here I have another set of Gray Pneumatics. And I'm not sponsored or endorsed by Gray Pneumatic. They just make great tools at a fraction of the cost of other companies. This is the 3/8 semi-deep set, and you can see it's no more than the 3/8 attached with a socket. It's just made together. Now, this is way less expensive going the universal adapter set versus buying a set of the sockets, because these will work with shallow, deeps, or mids, where these, you get what you buy when you buy them. So that's an option that you can look at that will save you a lot of money, is buying the universal impact adapters. I definitely recommend going with the pinless style. They just seem to work better and have less issues. Since we're on the topic of adapters and stuff like that, you will need a set of extensions. There's a couple of different options that you can use with extensions. Of course, this one's chrome, which they work the same as the impacts. I recommend, again, buying impact in everything. The reason why I brought two different ones, as you can see, the cutouts, and this one is called a Wobble Plus, meaning you can push the socket all the way up on it to the second lock, and it's a straight extension, like a normal extension. You can pull it out in one click, and it does give you a little bit of flexibility. That's where the Wobble Plus comes in. I don't have them in impact, I just have them in chrome, and that's why I brought this extension to show. But I am a fan of locking extensions. With locking extensions, they have the collar that pulls back, and the detent pin actually goes through the hole that's made in your socket, and it locks it on there. And if you're a tight area and you jerk back on it, the socket's going to stay on the extension. I recommend, at the very least, purchasing a set of locking extensions to start with, and that way you'll be done with it. You don't have to worry about it. For the money, it's hard to beat. There's all kind of great brands out there. Don't get blinded by just going with tool truck brands. As you see here, pretty much all the tools that I've showed you is non-tool truck brands. The Gear-Wrench pinless universal adapters, the Gray Pneumatic universal impact sockets, as well as the Gray Pneumatic duo sockets. Don't get blinded by the fact that you have to buy tool truck brands. Get what you can afford at the time. If purchasing off a tool truck is easier for you because you can make the $10 or $15 a week interest-free truck account payment, then so be it. Go that route. But don't get buffaloed into the fact that you have to buy Snap-on, or you have to buy Matco, or you have to buy Mac or Cornwell just to get the job done. They're quality tools, but again, you're starting out, so you need to stretch your dollar as far as you can. So now we've pretty much covered everything socket-wise, universal impact-wise, and extension-wise. We'll move on to ratchets and also impacts. So let me grab those, and I'll show you guys my thoughts and opinions on that. All right, so we've talked about sockets and what I feel like is the best sockets for the money. So now let's talk about ratchets and impacts. Now ratchets, well, that's about like the Coke and Pepsi debate, which one's better. But it all boils down to what you like personally. You can ask 100 different guys and you're probably going to get up to 20 different answers on what they feel like the best ratchet is. So you're kind of just going to have to feel that out on your own. I personally have always been a Snap-on fan. I used to have Craftsman stuff back in the day when it was USA, and I migrated towards Snap-on. Now granted, Snap-on is the king of tools supposedly, but in the ratchet worlds, I prefer the Matco ratchet better. With that being said, we have torture tested the crap out of the Icon ratchet made by Harbor Freight, and it's held up extremely well. This is a $40 non-locking flex head, and to be honest with you, it's perfectly adequate for professional use. There's a ton of alternatives that's on the market today from Capri. Gear Wrench makes great ratchets. Man, the list just goes on and on and on and on. There's enough ratchet brands that everybody could use a different ratchet and be a fan of, and that's still perfectly fine. So the best thing I would recommend doing is find a ratchet that you personally like. I have the new 1/2-inch drive gear wrench, comfort grip, and I do like it. It's a very nice ratchet for the money. One of the things you will need to invest in is a 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2-inch. We use a good bit of 1/4 for small areas like under dashes and this and that. Once again, I prefer the Matco locking flex head ratchet over the other brands. That's going to be strictly up to you, but keep in mind, if the tool truck comes around, you can make the interest-free weekly payments. Now, granted, what you would pay for this ratchet, probably in a weekly payment setting, you could pay cash, and this one would be yours completely debt-free. So just keep that in mind when you're making your decision. Just feel the ratchets, see which one fits you best. I do recommend, if you're going to work in the heavy-duty diesel world, to purchase a long 1/2-inch drive ratchet. It's just going to make those stubborn bolts easier to get out when you need them. This one happens to be a snap-on locking flex head. I really prefer locking flex heads over non-locking, and one of the reasons why I like the snap-on and then the Matco is just the simple fact that the dealer comes here. If we have an issue, they can warranty it out on the spot. When it comes to locking flex heads, I prefer the lock that's on the Matco better than the lock that's on the snap-on. Because with this one, sometimes you'll hit it and lock it when you mean for it to be unlocked. Where the Matco is kind of recessed up in here, it makes it a little more difficult. So as far as ratchet goes, pick the brand that you like and you can afford, because they're all going to do the same job at the end of the day. This Icon ratchet will do the exact same thing as the gear wrench or the snap-on or the Matco. Whatever you prefer and what you can afford is what you need to go with. So we've touched on the regular style ratchets. You're going to be tempted starting out to buy the cool tools that everybody in the shop has. Now keep in mind, these guys have been working in the field a lot longer. This is a luxury item. It is not a necessity. You can do everything with this ratchet as you can with this ratchet. The only advantage is this ratchet is a battery operated ratchet. Now, if you just have to go through the motions because you want to push a button versus ratchet it, there's other options available. You can always look at our ratchets. They're a lot cheaper and more powerful than the battery ratchets. The negative drawback is you will have a hose attached. Okay, it's 1/10 of the money. Just make your own decisions on that. I say stay away from this until you get further established in your career and you're making more money to afford the luxury tools that we speak of. All right, so we have covered regular ratchets and battery ratchets. Let's touch on impacts. My personal opinion is get what you like and what you can afford. Prime example, I recommend purchasing a battery 3/8 impact. Let me show you some examples. Here's the Matco, here's the snap-on, and here's the Milwaukee stubby. Pick the brand that you can afford first. Of course, the Milwaukee is going to be the least priced of all three. The advantage of the Milwaukee is the battery platform will work on a lot of tools going forward. The M12 battery can power your light, it can power a ratchet. There's a lot of advantages of going with Milwaukee. My personal favorite preference is the Snap-on CT761. I like the slim design that it has. I like the power to weight ratio. I've personally done 180 foot-pounds with this gun, and to me that's perfectly adequate for a 3/8. In my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion, if this gun will not get it off, you need to go get a 1/2 inch air impact to finish the job. There's going to be a lot of variances in opinions, but I believe for the money, that is your best way to start out. Get a battery 3/8. If it don't do the job, grab a pneumatic 1/2 inch and it's a done deal. One of two things, it's coming loose or it's breaking. So there you go. That's my opinion. But back on the battery impacts, the disadvantages of going with tool truck brands is the battery platform. You know, unless you go with a snap-on, you're pretty much going to be limited to what batteries will work in other tools. Milwaukee is the king of that. So you can take your own opinions and talk to others in your shop and maybe even use some of the battery impacts that they have. But I'm a firm believer that if the battery impact will not get it, you don't need to invest the money right now into 1/2 inch battery tools. Wait further your career and then look into that. Since I touched on that, here is a battery Milwaukee M18, the 2767, and here is the battery M12 stubby 1/2 inch impact. These guns cost more money than the pneumatic counterparts. Starting out, it's cheaper to buy a pneumatic gun. Once again, don't get sucked into the tool truck. You gotta have a snap-on PT850. You gotta have the MG725. You gotta have the Matco. Don't listen to that. There's plenty of other options that you can look at that will do the job perfectly fine. Prime example, AirCap makes a very good impact. This one's an old Chicago. It works great. I've got an old Blue Point that's been around forever and it still works fine. This is the new Matco 2779, I believe it is. And this is the new Matco 1/2 inch stubby. Now granted, you'll never have to worry about your battery running dead, running an air gun. The negative side is you're going to have an air hose attached. Starting out, you just sometimes have to take those things in consideration. Money-wise, battery 3/8, pneumatic 1/2 inch. That's my opinion, and I will stand behind that forever and ever. Amen. I believe for the money, that's your best investment that you can go with starting out. All right, guys, so far I've given you my opinion on the sockets. I've given you my opinion on the ratchets and impacts. So another thing that you use a lot in this industry, you do have to take out a lot of screws. There's several options you can go at, and once again, screwdriver opinions are about like ratchet opinions or underwear opinions. Everybody likes a certain brand and they think that's the best. Some of the things you need to consider on screwdrivers is what fits your hand perfectly and what you prefer the feel of. This is the Snap-on Instinct gripped handles. They feel really nice in your hands. They're good quality. Here's some of the things I can tell you that I know about the Snap-on screwdrivers. It's not a pry bar. First of all, any of them is not a pry bar. So if you break the tip, they're going to just replace the shank and not the handle. So if you beat your handles up, you're always going to have beat up handles. They do fit your hand good, but they are pretty expensive. And then you have the opposite scope of the spectrum is the Matco. These are actually made by Witt. It's a German brand. I love them. I like the way they feel. These actually feel better in my hand than the Snap-ons. The positive of Matco, if you break one of these, they replace the entire screwdriver. So if you got a beat up handle, you get a new handle. But they are also pricey. My personal favorite in regular screwdrivers is the Wera. I like the way the grip feels better. I just like these screwdrivers better than any standard set of screwdrivers that I own. They're my personal favorite. They're also made in Germany. They have vapor kind of etched tips that help grip the screw. This is my favorite set of screwdrivers out of all the screwdrivers that I own. Now with that being said, there's going to be times you're going to take out a lot of screws. You're going to want to use an impact driver versus a screwdriver. And this goes back to the same as the impacts that I mentioned earlier. buy what brand that you like that you can afford. Milwaukee makes one. The same battery can be used throughout all your tools. This one here is the Snap-on. It's the same 14.4 battery platform that's in the Impact that I use. This one is designed just exactly like the CT761. It don't have the slip style clutch on it, so when you see it's tight, you have to let off the button. That's kind of a negative if you don't pay attention what you're doing, because you can set the clutch on the others and run the dash screws in until it'll stop on its own. You have to pay attention if you get this style gun. Now, Snap-on does sell the one with the clutch. I just prefer the one that's stronger. So get what you can afford and what you feel is the best value for the money, that you can use the same battery platform across all your tools. It'll help save on batteries. It'll help save on chargers and toolbox space from not having to have multiple chargers. There's also the option for a ratcheting screwdriver. If toolbox space is limited, this is a great alternative because the bits are actually stored in the handle. This one here is actually a Snap-on, and it's got 6 different bits that's in the handle as well as the one that's in the screwdriver. So this one can pretty much take the place of an entire drawer. And I know some people may think, well, I don't like it to ratchet. That's a simple fix. You put it in the middle and it's locked and it works like a standard screwdriver. In tight places, I do prefer a ratcheting screwdriver to help me get in there and be able to work a little better. So that is an option for you to look at. Like I say, in this industry, we do have I guess it's fortunate that we have so many different options and tools. We also have options and styles. These screwdrivers will get you by perfectly fine where you don't have to have a bit driver. If you choose a bit driver, make your mind up on what brand you want to go with. There's tool truck brands that have this exact same set that will cost you 3 to 4 times the money. Even the case is identical. There's a link in the descriptions that has this same bit set in it for a fraction of the cost that you'll buy on the tool truck. The negative side with purchasing these, you can't walk on the truck, hand the guy a bit, and get a new one. Fortunately, Napa carries Irwin tools. If your shop purchases from Napa, they'll warranty your bits out the same as a tool truck. So that's an option to keep in mind. Earlier I touched on this is not a pry bar. That's another tool that you're going to have. There's many great options when it comes to pry bars. Personally, this is the Matco set. I like the way the grips feel better. I own a Snap-on set and I own an older Craftsman square hard handle set. Buy a quality set of pry bars one time and be done with it, because this is something that you will use time and time again. This is the set. It's got like a 6-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, 24-inch. I also purchased a 36 and 40, or I think it's a 52-inch, the big one that I use. But you can start out with a smaller 3 or 4 piece set. Get what feels good in your hand. If you have the option, purchase a striking cap, and that way you can use it in different situations later on in your career. But invest in a good set of pry bars. They will be very handy in the long run. Okay, moving on. We're going to have a good quality set of wrenches. Now, here's the way I look at it. Starting out, you can get by with a standard set of wrenches. Once again, you don't have to purchase your wrenches off the tool truck. Don't get sucked into that unless it's easier for you to make the slower, interest-free weekly payments. What I have here is a set of Carlisle wrenches, and they do have like the little teeth inside, just like the Snap-on. These wrenches work perfectly adequate. In fact, this is what I have in my roll cart that I use on a daily basis. Carlisle makes some exceptionally good tools, and there's a Napa store almost anywhere that you can swap them out if you do have an issue. Another good point that I want to make is using a ratcheting wrench. There's going to be times where it's a pain to get in there and turn this ratchet to get a bolt loose. So you're going to need a set of ratcheting wrenches. You don't have to buy the tool truck brand ratcheting wrenches. There's plenty of alternatives out there that work as good, if not better, than purchasing them off the tool truck. This here is a set of Capris. It's the 6-point box end, and it has the cutout here that helps you grab the sides of the bolts. In my opinion, this is an excellent alternative to a tool truck brand. I actually compared the Capri box end wrenches, the extra long ones. I'll put a card up here at the top where we did a side-by-side comparison between the Snap-on and the Capri. With the way the tool industry is going and changing, you don't have to go with a tool truck brand. Lots of alternative tool truck brands are out there that will help you save money and get you a very, very, very good tool. These are the ratcheting wrenches. They're super smooth. We have not had any issues with these using them in the shop. Capri makes great sets. Gear Wrench was the founder and father of the ratcheting wrench, if you want to say so, and also makes a great set as well. Milwaukee has some. There's a ton of tool truck brands out there. I'm sorry, non-tool truck brands out there that are perfectly adequate to get the job done. Shop around and do what's best for you, and don't listen to the guy that says only buy Snap-on. That's the guy that's been in the field for a long time. You can always, always, always upgrade your tools later as your budget allows you to, because everybody needs a set of tools at home or in their personal vehicle. Always keep that in mind. Get what you need to get the job done now, and look at upgrading when you can afford it. Don't have to be stuck in that mindset of it has to be a tool truck brand. Some of the other things you're going to need is a set of pliers. Now here is where I am going to give you a piece of advice that is probably the most valuable piece of information in this video. Don't waste your money on junky pliers. Buy a set of Knipex to start with. They're pricey, but they'll last you forever. They have a lifetime warranty on them. I personally chose to purchase my Knipex tools off the tool truck. The reason why, I can hand them to them and get them back. Now recently, our local Napa has started carrying Knipex pliers. They keep them in stock. So if you got an area that your local parts stores carry Knipex, by all means, save the money, purchase your tools from Napa. You know, buy a good set of Knipex, you know, the 10 or 12 inch, and then buy the smaller set. That's all you have to have. You don't have to have 35 sets of pliers. Granted, they'll come as your career progresses, but start out with a good set of Knipex, because the Knipex Cobras, in my opinion, are hands down the best pliers made today out of any platform on any market. They're amazing. Locking pliers, you're going to need a vice grip style pliers. There's a ton of different companies that are building these pliers. In my opinion, the original Irwin vice grips are by far the best. I recommend getting at least one pair that's made like this and one pair that's needle nose. You'll need these working in this field, but buy the original manufacturer, which is vice grip, the Irwin brand, to start with, and you will not have any issues with them. Don't get sucked in paying the ridiculously overpriced price for the Snap-on version, because they absolutely suck. Our Snap-on dealer don't even carry them on the truck because they are bad. He actually carries the Irwin vice grips. So get you a good set of locking pliers and you'll be happy that you have them. The next thing is you will need a set of needle nose pliers for working in this field. This here is the Snap-on versions. You don't have to buy the tool truck version. I personally like the way these pliers are made, and I like the way they feel. That's why I went with them. It's not because it's just a Snap-on plier. They do work very well. I was happy with them. I liked them, so that's why I went with this brand. There's a lot of alternative brands that you can go with. Just look for a good set of needle nose and go with those. Another tool that you're going to have is a set of picks. You're going to be taking O-rings off things, and a good set of picks will help you get that job done. Now these are Snap-on. I've never had to warranty a set of picks, but I also use my picks for exactly what they're designed for, picking instead of prying. So I have not broken any. I don't say that you need Snap-on ones. You can get, I do have a set of Cobalts in a service truck, and they work adequately as well as the Snap-on. So just spend your money wisely, but you will need a set of picks to help you get O-rings and stuff like that out when you're working on stuff, and also to clean out stuff. A good set of picks will be worth the money. Another thing you're going to need is a good set of cutters. You're going to be using a lot of zip ties, and you will have to cut wire and this and that. I recommend to start out with, go ahead and buy a set of flush cuts. These work really good. They cut very well, and they'll keep your zip ties nice and neat when you snip them off. Go with a set of flush cuts. These are made by Blue Point, but I think somebody said they was made by another company. I'm sure they'll comment down below the original makers of these. There's only like $13 on the tool truck, so I felt like they was well worth the money. We've got like 5 sets of these at the shop. Get you a good set of flush cuts, and you'll be happy you have them, especially when you start doing electrical work and cutting zip ties. Speaking of electrical work and zip ties, you will need a test light. There's a lot of options you can go with on a test light. There's the old school with a little bulb in it, and they work. I do recommend starting out, go ahead and buy one that's got the built-in voltmeter, and that way you can see if you have 12 volts at whatever you're looking at. One of the good things about this one is it will light up green if it's ground and red for hot. That way you can test for ground and hot on one tool and see that you have voltage there. Starting out, I don't recommend spending the money to buy like a Fluke or something like that, because starting out you're probably just going to be doing, light electrical work. As your career progresses, then you can move up to a digital voltmeter and ohm meter, where you can start getting into more and more and more electrical work. But starting out, save the money and buy you a decent test light that has the meter built in, and also that you can check with ground and power. Another thing that I will advise you not to skimp on is a set of scrapers. Cleaning mating surfaces is a time-consuming task, and if you're getting paid by the job, you want to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. These are the Matco carbide tip scrapers. I really like them because they're flat. If you slip, it's not going to cut you, and they work extremely well. Somebody said these were made by Lyle, so you might want to look at other options than the tool truck brand, but definitely invest in a good set of scrapers. These will pay off in the long run. Another good thing you're going to need is a hammer. You're going to have to bang on stuff. You're going to have to give things a little love taps, as we call them, and a quality hammer is nice to have. I do recommend go ahead and buy the dead blow hammer to start with versus the old school wooden handles. When you swing this one, you transfer so much more energy into what you're hitting, so it's less swings to get the job done. This one here is a snap-on 32 ounce. It's my personal favorite, the one that I grab most of the time. So you kind of have to go on what size that you like. I have some smaller ones for smaller jobs, but you don't have to go with a snap-on. I think Trusty Cook makes some hammers that are really well. Wilton also makes some really good dead blow hammers. So shop around, spend your money wisely, but get a good dead blow. Another thing you're going to need in this job is you're going to need an adjustable wrench. Now granted, that's not the proper tool every time to remove differential plugs and air lines, but many times the other guy has already used it and rounded the corners off. So you're going to have a good adjustable wrench to get some of those diff plugs loose, and also air lines. We use these after somebody's already used them before, when a square pipe plug will not work. A good quality adjustable wrench will be your friend. You don't have to buy the tool truck brand. This one here is made by Snap-on. It's actually made by Bacho. That's the original makers of these. You can find them online for 1/3 of the price. This one will run you about $40 through them, or if you buy it off the tool truck, it's about 100 or 120. So save yourself some money and look at the alternative brands. And you don't even have to go with this. You can go with Channel Lock to make some. There are several other people that make this style wrench that will work just fine. So use your money wisely and spend it on a proper tool that you need without breaking the bank. One of the tools that I do recommend purchasing, and as far as I know, Snap-on is the only one that makes these, is the flat hose pick set. I've done several videos on this one, and this one's actually my favorite of the two that's in the set. It is a SGA 1713B. It's made by Snap-on. The way it's made, it's got the flat piece here. When you start doing radiator hoses, some oil lines, any of the silicone boots, this right here will keep you from poking through it and having to purchase a part on a truck that you don't own. So this right here is well worth the money. It'll make your job a lot easier. You can pull it in there, twist it just a little bit to break the suction, wiggle it around, and get those stubborn, pesky hoses off in a super easy and efficient fashion without any kind of damage. This is one item that I do recommend looking on the tool truck for because it is well worth the money. Another tool that you're going to need, you will need to clean surfaces a good bit, such as oil pan gaskets and stuff like that. This is not even a tool truck brand. I do have a tool truck brand. It's the 90-degree die grinder, but most likely you'll be using roll-lock pads in it. On this one, I keep a wire brush on it to clean up stuff. A lot of times we'll do this for fab work, but we do use it sometimes to clean surfaces. I recommend buying one of these. This one's actually a Campbell Housefield or Hosfield. It actually comes from Walmart. I have the straight one and the 90-degree, and I also have the cutoff tool. Don't be afraid to purchase some of these because this has held up exceptionally well for what we have used it for in the shop. It's at least 2-year-old and we have not had a failure yet. The important things with our tools, keep them oiled, keep the water out of the system, and you'll be good to go. You'll use this a good bit, especially with a roll-lock pad on it, like I said, and cutoff disc. They come in very handy, especially if you're doing any kind of exhaust work, and it's going to pay to have these tools. So look at getting you a 90-degree cutoff tool or 90-degree die grinder and a cutoff tool, and you will be very happy. All right, guys, another great tool that you're going to have, and it's probably the most valuable tool that you will have, because if you can't see, you can't work, and if you can't work, you can't make any money, and that's a good light. My opinion is buy rechargeable lights. That way you don't waste a lot of money on batteries. With that being said, there's a ton of different choices and a ton of different features. So this is something you're just going to have to experiment with and see what you like, the pros and cons of each light. I personally prefer the diffused light look, such as this one by OEM. This is part number 25997. I do have a link in the description below to this light. The battery life's amazing. It's one of my favorite lights. You will need a pocket light. I recommend the Streamlight Stylus Pro USB. I use this light daily, and if I lost it today, I'd have another one before the sun went down tonight. Very, very valuable light to see with. There's tons of alternatives, such as the Snap-on that has the flashlight and the flip-out style blade light. Another great alternative is the Capri Tools light here. Super thin blade. It has a magnet on it, a hook here or here that allows you to use it in many different situations depending on what you're working on. It also has a strong magnetic base with a lock that you can turn it at an angle and it will stay there. Super bright light, has a dimmable switch on the front and a UV function, as you can see where it's there. With a flip of a switch, it goes to a white light. So a good quality light is going to be something that will be a valuable asset for you to have in your tool arsenal. You will just have to use your own opinions and your own judgment to see which light suits your needs the best. Another thing that you're going to have starting out in diesel is a box to keep all your tools in. This is going to be strictly subjective on what you want and what you can afford and what you prefer. I personally, starting out, would recommend a Snap-on or Matco or Mac roll cart. The slide top is a definite plus because that way you can still work off the top of your box and allow you to open it up and still get inside to access your tools. A lot of people's going to think buy a toolbox first or buy a cheaper roll cart first, and this is strictly just on your opinion and what you feel would work best for you in your shop. I personally believe if you buy a quality roll cart such as the Snap-on slide top, you can grow into that box. Once you get it full, then you can move to a toolbox. Here in our shop, we all work out of a roll cart, so our toolboxes are never moved. We use the toolbox strictly for tool storage on tools that we don't use every day. Like in my roll cart, if you want to take a look at that roll cart tour, I'll put a card to it up here. You can see it's full of sockets, wrenches, ratchets, everything that we use on a daily basis. The toolbox is simply there to hold the overflow storage and the larger tools that are in cases or tools that's not used on a daily basis. I recommend spend the money one time, buy a quality roll cart. Once you outgrow it, go to a box. Moving forward, you will need a torque wrench. Starting out, you may not use it as much, but as your career moves forward, you will use a torque wrench a good bit. I personally prefer the split beam style versus the digital. With that being said, I do own snap-on torque wrenches. They're made, the ones that I have are actually made by Precision Instruments. You can look elsewhere to buy a cheaper torque wrench that's of the same quality. So shop around when it comes time for you to purchase a torque wrench. I've recently got the gear wrench ones. I bought the digital ones and I am extremely happy with those. They work extremely well and are way less than tool truck brand torque wrenches. One of the advantages of purchasing a torque wrench off the tool truck, they're very expensive. When you get in the $300, $400, $500 range, it's easier to make a $20 or $30 a week payment versus dropping down that kind of cash. So that may be an option you might want to look on a tool truck. Always put it on the truck account, and that way you can save that interest. So keep that in mind when you start looking for torque wrenches. Well guys, we've pretty much covered everything you're going to need starting out in diesel. Hopefully this will help some of you guys that have messaged me, and some of them I've responded to and some of them I haven't yet because we've been so busy. So hopefully this will guide you in the right direction and help you see what you need and what you can save money on. Like always guys, thanks for watching this video. If you like it, hit that thumbs up. Check the links down in the description. Some of these tools are in there. Like always guys, hopefully you have a great day. If you're not subscribed to this channel, click that notification bell and the subscribe button, and that way you will always get our latest, greatest, most awesomest content that we can bring you. You guys have a great week, and we will catch y'all next time. See ya. I've got like a quarter of all the tools I own stowed over here. Now I got a big old mess to clean up.